Megan, Shannon,
David,
Nick, Tony,
Margaret,
Sebastian,
Jane,
Jerry,
Mel.
Michael.
Pardon?
Michael.
You've been here before, haven't you?
Yeah.
should I stop it?
Yeah, for a moment. Well, they settle down.
Yeah, we already have people watching.
We'll leave it go.
We started the meeting already, so you can have a chat later. Good morning.
Hi.
Hello. How are you? Xiomara. Xiomara.
Your first time?
Yes, it's
Where'd
my
you-
first time.
Where'd you hear about it?
Because I'm reading a book
Oh,
with James Braham,
yeah.
and
Good.
I knew about it.
Good.
chair over there, Dale.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, you all know what it is, what we talk about? Go over the same stuff all the time, saying the same things. And people will say, it can't be that simple. And that's a concept they've taken on, and because they've believed it takes years and years of effort and struggle to understand or recognise that. But if it is what they say it is, non-duality, one without a second, can there be anything simpler than one? And it's not even one. That's why they put it on one without a second, because even the idea of one implies there could be something other than that one. And anything other than that would be two. And then it'd be duality, or seeming duality. There never was, or never will be, or never can be any duality. Everything is that. And you've got to understand what a thing is. Every pattern, shape and form in this room and outside this room and in the massive manifestation are all things that appear in and on that basic screen of stillness and emptiness. And we take the things to be something, to be something real. But we put labels on it and divide it into separate individual things. So it is no thing really, as all this manifestation is, no thing. And can something come from no thing? Well, it can't. So the things, like they tell you, are Maya, manifestation, or appearances on that screen. And that includes you and me, though we don't realise. We think we are separate from the things we see. But everything, all things are that. And that's the Mahavakya, or the great mantra, I am that. The hell with that, everything is that. And don't you know that already in your language? Because don't you say that's a chair, that's the carpet, that's you, that's me, that's the tree, that's the flower. You know already that everything is that, but you put the label on it, the word. Now that's what needs to be looked at. Is the word the thing? Is the word real? Take the word water. Can you drink the word? Can you swim in it? Can you drown in it? You can't. The word fire, does it burn your mouth? Can you cook with it? Can you eat with yourself with it? You can't. So what's this word I or me? Which you believe that you are, this person or this separate entity. can it be just another label, like the word water is put on water, and the word fire is put on the heat, and all the rest of it? So this word person, where does it come from? In the ancient language, I think it was Latin, persona, the mask. And we, instead of seeing it what it actually means, a mask or a conceptual image, we've taken a conceptual image to be real. I am this conceptual image, not realising it is a conceptual image. I am Bob the Australian, the good fella, or the fellow that's unhappy or sad or depressed or fearful or anxious. But the statement is, I am that, not I am the person. And everything is that. You know that in your language already also, because you say that's a chair, that's a carpet, that's you, that's me. We put labels or words on everything. Where does the word come from? Well, doesn't it tell you in the Bible, in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, the Word was God. All things were made by Him. That means they must have been made by the Word. Nothing was made without the Word. God is just a label. There's no such thing as God. It's just a label we put on the innate, what I call, for want of a better term, but it's not that either, intelligence energy. Intelligence is knowing, energy, any energy is a movement or activity. And aren't you all knowing right now? The ing on it gives us something that is an activity in the moment. It's happening right now. And it doesn't mean knowing this or knowing that, or I know. As soon as you say I know, you formed a subject. And you've divided the knowing into subject-object. What you know becomes the object. That's the same with seeing. Everybody is seeing right now, and you say, I see. I see the chair, I see the carpet. And you've divided the seeing into subject-object. Duality. But if you look at it a different way, can there be a seer without the seeing? If there's no seeing, can you say there's a seer? And the seen. If there's no seeing, can you say there's the seen? So when you really look at it and see that it's not divided at all, it's already that. It's already the one thing vibrating or seemingly expressing as two. And that's the way all this manifestation is. And they call it, this manifestation, in Buddhism it's called Maya, or illusion. A dreamlike manifestation, or a phenomenal manifestation. Look up your dictionary, look up the word phenomena. And the definition of the word phenomena is that which appears to be. So all this manifestation, if you give it that definition, is only appearing only seemingly so. And when it's investigated, you'll see that's the fact. It's only seeming, though it seems very real, a lot of it. And they say this phenomenal manifestation is not static, it's transient. It's constantly changing. It's not time-bound. It only doesn't even last a moment, because that's another concept of time. It's spontaneous. When does now begin? You'll say it's beginning right now, and as you're saying that, you know it's ending. And as it's ending, it's beginning again. And as it's beginning again, it's ending again. All spontaneous. So we've got this conceptual image, and they say that this manifestation is transient. It's constantly changing. And have a look at that body. And if you've never investigated this, you'll see this body, you'll think this body's a static body. But don't you realise that you haven't got the same body you walked into this room with a minute or two ago or 5 minutes ago? There are thousands of cells dying in it right now and being replaced. And you haven't got to take it back a bit, recalling the past. Take it back there and you'll see you haven't got the body you had 5 years ago or when you were a little child. But what is it that's expressing in or through that body that you can see that is the seemingly constant? Isn't that sense of presence? You can go back, recall the past of something happened in your childhood, and you'll say, I was there. I know this. What was there? Was it the same body you got now that was there? It wasn't. Was it the same conceptual image you got about yourself that was there then? It isn't. But you believe it is, you take it to be real and believe it is. So you're relating from that point of view to a dead image. And relating, or relativity, or relationship is duality. And we point out in these things there is no such thing as duality. Duality is a fiction. There's never been any duality whatsoever. But doesn't it appear to be so? Doesn't it appear to be all the earth, the sky, the planets, the stars and everything else, and this body and all the other bodies and everything in it appear to be different? The shape and form appears to be different. That's what they call it. In Hinduism they call it Satchitananda Nama Rupa, the 5 factors. Sat is existence, Chit is consciousness, Ananda is being or loving to be, knowing that you are. Nama Rupa is the name and form. The body, mind is name, is the form. And the name we put on it, body, is the name. The name and the shape of the body is the name and form. And the name we put on mind is just a label we put on a vibrating pattern of energy. Show me a thing called mind if you believe you are the mind. Have a look at this body if you think you are this body. And innately, and I mean innately, it's already known but not kept constantly recalled or remembered until the absolute certainty of it is there that it never changes. Innately you know you're not the body because you say my body. And you say my mind. And if you've got a car, you'll say my car. If you're in a house, you'll say my house. And you say my shirt, my pants, my shoes, my this, my that. And you know damn well you're not any of those things. Well, wouldn't it dawn on you, maybe I'm not the body either? And you say my mind. Well, if you think you're the mind, show me a thing called mind. Can anyone jump up and say this is mind? I don't see anybody want to say this, what they believe mind to be is or think it is. Because you know you can't give it any description. And you know there is no such thing as mind apart from thought. What we call thought or thinking is mind. And what is thought? When you look into thought, the thought is nothing but a vibration. A movement of energy vibrating through the body as sound, which is translated, the sound is translated into words we've picked up along the way. And realise that also, every word you've ever spoken or ever likely to speak has been picked up. You weren't born with any words. You didn't have any words till you were about 2 and a half. Then you might understand what that scriptural saying is. In the beginning was the word. Because you didn't know anything about a beginning. Because you can't remember your birth. You can't remember anything about yourself until you learnt those words. And while you were in the womb you can't remember because you didn't even have a brain. How could you remember these things then? So all these things that come upon us at some later state. So you can't say you are the body or the mind. If you can't remember your birth, when did you begin? Trace it back and have a look. Go back as far as your father or your mother, and you can go back forever and ever. And realise you can't find a beginning to yourself anywhere. Going back to your father and your mother, that animating life essence, the intelligence, energy, that pattern-shaped form, and that body, mind, the pattern form you called your father, enable in that form, through the prana, the air he's breathing and the food, the essence of those things that keep being utilised and growing in that body, enabled in that pattern a little microscopic particle which you cannot see with your naked eye called a sperm to form. You can't see it with your naked eye. But that sperm was suffused with an innate intelligence. It knew what to do. And the same thing in your mother. In that pattern, your shape and form you called your mother, enabled in that pattern another microscopic particle called an egg or an ovum to form in that pattern. You can't see that with your naked eye. But that was suffused with intelligence also, because it knew what to do. It attached itself to the wall of the uterus. It wasn't floating around accidentally, it was attached to the wall of the uterus. And the sperm, being suffused with that intelligence, knew what to do. It swam to the ovum. It had the capacity of swimming. Put it under a microscope and see for yourself. And that began, as I say, with the essence of the food, and that food came from plants or whatever it was, the air and all the elements. So you can't trace it back to anything, any static shape or form that had a beginning or an end. And all these conceptual images, pattern forms have a beginning and an end. And they talk about eternity. Eternity doesn't have any beginning or end. Eternity is right in this moment, because when does now begin? You'll say it's beginning right now, and as you're saying that, it's already ending, and so it's got no time, no duration. And you can't give yourself a beginning or an end. In this pattern, shape and form, it's seemingly beginning and ending. It's vibrating and changing, transient all the time, like everything else. But it's not the start of it, it's not the finish of it. You can't give a start to it anywhere. It's all based on that basic screen. The silence, the stillness, the emptiness, which Buddha called a cognizing emptiness. Not that we are cognizing the emptiness, but that emptiness suffused with that intelligence or knowing has that cognizing ability. And he made the statement there that emptiness is form, pointing out that that cognizing ability is forming into all these pattern shapes and so on. And he turned it round the other way and pointed that out, because he said the form can be nothing other than the emptiness. All these forms, you and me, are basically that intelligence energy, that emptiness, appearing as pattern shapes and form. The energy of belief has gone into it and made it seemingly real. That's why it needs to be questioned, investigated and seen whether it's true or not, because the false cannot stand up to investigation. If you investigate something and it's a fact, you can't negate it nor deny it. If it's not a fact, you'll see through it, because the false, as I say, can't stand up to investigation. So are you this body-mind? Have a look at the body. What's this body made up of? You'll see it's made up of elements. It's made up of air, earth, water, fire and space. Just like the elements around you. The space is here, the air is here, there's moisture in it, heat in it. All the elements are in that space. That's what this body is made up of. Separate yourself from those elements if you can. Stop breathing. Take the air out of your body. See how long you'd long without that element. Take the water out of your body. Your body is 80% water. Take the water out of your body. See how long it lasts. Take the fire, the body temperature. You'd get hypothermia and die. Get off the earth if you can. See how long you'd live off the earth. Get out of space. If you can find an end to space anywhere or a start to it, try and get there. Get out of it. So you realise when you look at it closely, you can't be separate from these elements. And these elements are made up of subatomic particles, can be broken down into nothing but energy, a vibration, a throb, or a pulsation, or a somewhat of a movement, as they call in the scriptures or the texts, a spander, a throb. That's all this manifestation, throbbing and vibrating into different pattern shapes and forms. So what are you? Are you this body-mind entity, a person, isolated and alone in this manifestation? And in the manifestation, what size would you be compared to this manifestation? You'd be less than the grain of sand on the beach compared to this man. And yet we think we're going to change the world. But all these concepts and ideas, all based on this belief. And where does that sense of me come upon us? You weren't born with any words, any language, you didn't know anything. And watch the little child then when it's first born. And it hasn't got any words. It's seeing, it's hearing, it's tasting, touching, smelling, but it's not translated into I like this, I don't like it. The natural liking will be there, attraction to it, or the natural disliking or whatever, without putting those labels on it to push it away. It's functioning naturally, effortlessly and spontaneously. But at 2.5, the capacity of reasoning develops in us. It's got no capacity of reasoning, it's just acting spontaneously as it is in the moment. When that capacity of reasoning starts, we learn these words. And where do we learn these words from? We picked them up from our parents. Our father and mother and people around us start saying, you're little Johnny, you're a good little boy, you're a lovely little baby, you're this, that and the other. And reasoning around them, you know what they're saying, this word you learn's I and me. And then you say, I am little Johnny. And I am the unlucky boy or the unhappy boy, or I'm the good boy, or I'm the fearful boy, or the anxious boy, or whatever you are, male, female, whatever. We have these words on it. This is I, this is me. A word, a label. Now you can't do much with that word or label. So what we do to it, we add on to it, it's got no substance. You can say I for the rest of your life, and what you can do with it? Nothing. Because it hasn't got any substance or an independent nature. But we learn those other words, we put it on, I'm Bob. They tell me I'm this Bob, I'm this little boy, I'm Bob, the Australian. The good fellow or not so good. The conceptual image, all these concepts I've learned about myself, I added to that I. Now it's not just a pure I, it's me, Bob, the Australian, the good fellow. A conceptual image based on past events, experiences and conditioning, not based on what is right now. So it's based on the past, and the past is dead. Based on a dead image. Now you might start to understand why I can't keep up with life. What I'm not continually happy, why I'm always fearful or unhappy or depressed or anxious. Because life is transient, it's constantly changing. Now I'm remaining in the static image. And life leaves it behind, just like pulling a bucket of water out of the river. Put it on the bank and it's dead. It's become stagnant. It's no longer life, it's dead. What's happened to the river? It's still flowing along and moving, and left that bucket behind. And it'll flow on till it reaches the ocean or wherever it's got to go. And again, can be evaporated, go up as clouds, the clouds will come down as rain, and forever and ever it'll go on. Not reincarnation or not reliving, it's the same essence that's patterning, shaping, forming as everything and anything. Put that to everything you know or see or believe to be so and see. So there's no beginning to us and there's no end to it. It's the simplicity of knowing that you are. I am that knowing. And there's anybody who is not knowing right now. Being, knowing or loving to be, Satchitananda. Anyone who's not being right now. And anyone who is not happy to be right now. Take that word being. Instead of just being, we've got to try and something with this believed in entity we are. We've got to try. Believe it's separate. We've got to try and make it whole. So we think about becoming something. If we do this practice or repeat this mantra or do this and that, I will become something. But don't you understand? Becoming is not being. It's a conceptual idea that something will happen in the future that is not now, when being is this immediacy. And you call God, if you believe in a God, you call God the Supreme Being. And you call yourself a human being. What if you took that label human off and took the label supreme off? What can you do with that beingness in this room right now without putting a label on it? You realise that's being a chair, that's being a carpet, that's being Tony, or the one next to you, that's being me, it's being you. It's being everything which we put words or labels on. So, though it seems there's quite a few in this room, there's just the one essence, being everything. And that is what you actually are. Not the pattern, shape and form, but the essence of that pattern. So we call it essence, or call it spirit if you like. But spirit is nothing substantial. It is essence. And matter is a condensed form of spirit. Not two different things. It's spirits that seemingly solidified into pattern, shapes and forms. But it's the one essence, patterning, shaping and forming and expressing and appearing as everything. Now what happens when we learn these words? At 2 and 2.5 you learn words like I, me, this and that, something like that. And have a look at this thing you call mind. And see the way it functions. Being a vibration of energy, it always functions dualistically. And have a look at it. And see how you're functioning. You'll realise you're either in the past, which is memory, or you're in the future, which is anticipation and imagination, or somewhere within that range. And within that range is either good or bad, pleasant, painful, happy, sad, loving, hating, positive, negative. Look at your mind and see if it functions any other way than dualistically in the pairs of opposites. And what are the boundaries we put upon it? The boundaries we put upon it are the word good, bad, pleasant, painful, happy, sad. And didn't Shakespeare tell you some time ago, there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so? And doesn't Nisargadatta tell you there is nothing that can trouble you except your own imagination? Break that word imagination down to imagine. Imagine. Creating mental images. Look at that mirror behind you. What do you see in it? Reflections or mental images. You can't say they're not there. Grow up and try and grab one of those reflections or images out of the mirror. They are images in the mirror. You can't. Though they appear to be so and are seemingly real, in actuality they are not. All there are reflections in the glass with a backing on it. If there's no reflection surface to it, you couldn't say they were there at all. They would go right through the glass. And so when these pattern, shapes and forms haven't got something to reflect on, where are they going to lodge? So the conceptual image we form about ourselves, I'm Bob the Australian, is based on past events and experiences and seemingly reinforced day in, day out, not only by us, by our schools, by our parents, by our society, and everyone around us are constantly reinforced. And when we take on the belief that it is so, we start to reinforce it also. And it's seemingly solid. It's seemingly a substantial belief that we've taken on that's solid and really means something. But it's never been a question. We never question because our parents told us, our schools tell us. But have a look into it and investigate it. See if this me has any substance or any independent nature. Because everything becomes relative to this me. Something comes up and I like it. How do you know? Well, I've had this before. This me has it before and I like it. And don't we want to keep the things we like? We don't want the things we dislike or the fears or the angst. We want to get rid of them. But the things we like, we want to keep. Not realising that they, like everything else, they are transient. They're going to change. Whether we like it or not, and we can't keep it there because it's going to change. And you see that in your life. They'll either die, or they'll disappear, or they'll leave you, or they'll move on, or you won't like them, or you want to push away, but they'll change. But we don't want the things we like to go, so what do? We try to keep them there. In trying to keep them there, we resist it from going. And resistance is conflict. If you're resisting something, you're in conflict with it, aren't you? So resistance is conflict. And any conflict you are in, makes you unhappy, anger, fearful, depressed, guilty, shameful, remorseful, jealous, envy. All your psychological sufferings come about from this resistance or from this conflict. And another word for this conflict is uneasiness, anxiousness, fear. That's disease. Uneasiness is disease. So there's resistance, conflict and disease going on us all the time while that thinking process is going on. Doesn't mean to say you need to stop thinking, you can't. But it needs to recognise what thinking is and not putting the energy of belief into it, leaving it as it is, not taking a stance anywhere in it, and it's free to move on. Something comes up and I don't like it. What do we do with this one? Again, we resist it because we try and force it out. We try and get rid of it. We do all we can to get rid of it. Again, in the resistance and conflict and uneasiness. That's going on in our lives constantly. Now, do you think that's what's necessary in our life, this constant relativity, relationship or resistance or unhappiness or depression? If you thought that, why wouldn't you just stay with them? But you go on a search trying to get rid of it all. Something innately tells you there's a bit more to this than what we believed in, with all these fear. And if this fear and anxiety and stress get too much for you, you think you're going to get rid of it by killing yourself, suicide and like that, or taking drugs and things and blotting it out. Doesn't happen. But what will happen and can happen is you can see through it. And all this resistance and conflict is what we call the ego, the self-centre, the refluent. See through it and recognise that there is no such thing as an ego. This thing we're relating to, a conceptual image, a dead image at that, is not real. And people say, I saw through the I am. There is no me, but I got caught up again. Well, if there's no me, who or what can get caught up in it? Doesn't it realise you're just saying no me or mouthing the words and you seem to be caught up in it again? Who's caught up in it? When there's only the me, it's not going to catch up in itself because it's the one essence that's pure and everything. It's got to have something opposite. So all these people that come along and say, I've seen through it, but I'm caught up in it, have a look and ask yourself that simple question. Who is it that's caught up in it? Who can lose it? Maybe I need to look again and question it and see, I saw through it for a moment and it seemed to come back. Was I actually seeing through it? Do it again and have another look until you realise, yes, I was seeing through it. And yes, there is nothing with any substance or any independent nature there at all. It's been seemingly lost, but it needs to be recognised. And we pointed out before, it is a cognising emptiness. And the recognition will come about with that same essence that's cognising it in the first place. That gets seemingly obscured by the belief in the thinking. And look at that word belief and see how true or real that is. Your dictionary definition of belief is an unquestioned acceptance of something in the absence of reason. We've taken all these things on board without questioning them and reasoning them out. We've taken them on board because our parents told us, our schools told us, and taken them to be real. Acceptance of something an unquestioned of something in the absence of reason. Acceptance of an alleged fact. Not a true fact, but an alleged fact. You're going to sentence somebody on an alleged fact? You can't. Well, you do on a lot of cases, but you're going to come back and go the reality of it. Of an alleged fact without positive knowledge or proof. Question something and get the positive knowledge or proof. And the positive knowledge is right now. Is anyone who's not existing right now? No. You'll say, I'm existence. Do you know that, or are you just thinking that? Anyone who's not conscious right now, or unaware right now. No, you're not unaware, so you must be aware. Consciousness and awareness are two labels you put on something. If you're not unaware, you must naturally be aware. That's how it functions in the pairs of opposites. So, if you're not unaware, or not saying, you must be that also. What we need to do is question this conceptual image, this me that we take to be real. See if it's real or true or not. See if there's such a thing as an ego, which I'm relating to and believe to be real. Because they tell you in the scriptures that ego is the problem. Selfishness, self-centeredness, self-will. That is ego. Is there such a thing as a self, a personal self, a me? Because we say myself. And we take myself, just as we say my house, my car, to be this me, this personal self. But the scriptures tell you there is only one self. There's not a personal self or many selves. There is only one self. And it is that one self that everything's patterning, shaping and forming and appearing in. And it's self-seeing, it's self-knowing, it's self-shining, it's self-aware, it's self-thinking. It's the one self that's doing all those things. Not a personal self at all. The personal self creates images, concepts, thoughts and ideas. And go back to what the Sagata tells you. Nothing can trouble you except your own imagination. And what you are imagining as a personal self that's choosing this or seeing that or tasting that is a total fiction. There's no one there doing it at all. Look at it and see. And you can do that quite easily and simply. Everybody is seeing right now. Isn't that a fact? And everybody is hearing one. Anybody who is not seeing or not hearing, you understand that. Simple, isn't it? But have a look at that. Does my eye tell me I see? My eye's not saying, look at this, Bob, that's good or that's bad. Can your eye say anything at all? You realise it can't. But that thought, I see, is the mind thought comes up and it translates it. It translates into that seeing into I see. But it's not a pure seeing anymore. When you woke up this morning, you were seeing and hearing. Before any words came on it, there was a natural, pure, spontaneous seeing and hearing. And the words comes on it immediately. It's not a pure seeing anymore. It's me, Bob, that thinks it's seeing. The conceptual image. And the same with the hearing. The hearing comes up, when you wake up this morning, the hearing was there, but does the ear say to you, listen to this, Bob? Or hear this, that was good? The ear can't say anything, but it is the instrument through which the seeing is happening. Now that seeing and hearing are two instruments. And we think, when you wake up this morning, it's the same, think that seeing has changed. But realise the seeing hasn't changed. It's the same seeing you've had all morning, yesterday, last week and last year. The seeing hasn't changed. But the content has changed. And the content is continually changing. Conceptual images coming up and thoughts, feelings, ideas, emotions continually changing that image and loading it onto the pure seeing. And now we're seeing this manifestation and all the things that are appearing in it and labelling everything and putting concepts on it and getting locked into the labels, questioning them or separating ourselves from it. And the conceptual imaging goes on. The same with the hearing. It's the same hearing you've had and always had. But we believe the hearing has changed, but the hearing has changed. Hearing hasn't changed, but the concepts in it have changed. The content has changed. So the seeing and the hearing are happening. The tasting and the touching and the smelling are happening. The ing on it gives it something that's happening in the immediacy. It's happening, it's seeing, it's hearing, it's tasting. Not tasted or will taste, not becoming or will be willing or whatever, not thising or thating, you know. It's spontaneously functioning as it is, but we're separating it into the dualistic patterns. Now the seeing and hearing happening, the thought I see, I hear comes up, but have a look and take it a little bit further. The thought I see is there, but ask yourself this, can the thought I see actually see? Can a thought see? The seeing can't see, but it's translated by a thought, and the hearing can't see, but it's translated by it. But can that thought I see or I hear? Can a thought see or hear? Look around the room with your eyes closed and see for yourself right now what things you can see in this room with your eyes closed. All you'll see is the darkness behind your lens. You won't see any of the things in the room. So the thought I see cannot see. The thought I hear, put your hands over your ears, blot your hearing out and see what you can hear with the thought. And you see the thought I hear can't see. You're not unaware right now, so you must be aware, and you've always been aware, if you recognize it, but that thought I am aware is not your awareness. The thought I choose. We think we choose our thoughts, but why would you have an unhappy, miserable, or fearful, or anxious thought if you could choose them? You thought you could choose your thoughts. Why haven't you chose them and make it what you want it to be? Maybe you can't choose a thought. So you must realise when that personal entity, that egoic self, can't see, can't hear, can't feel, can't taste, can't touch, can't do anything at all. Take that life essence out of the body, and what have you got? You don't have to be a road scholar to work out the body. Without the life going in that body, you'd be a corpse. Now, you've probably seen a few corpses in your day, and in those corpses, haven't they got the eyes, the ears, the heart, the lung, all the organs in the body, all the nerves and sinews? But without that throbbing, pulsating life essence going through them, what good is it to them? What can that body do without the life essence? Can't do a damn thing. Never has, never can, it never will. Just like a computer. Your computer's a good analogy. You've got that computer. Look at the wondrous things you can get out of the computer, all the great information you got out of it. But you can punch those keys as much as you like and run that mouse over it as much as you like. If the power's not turned on, what information can you get out of it? Not a thing. The same with this. It's that life essence that you are that's enabled this pattern to function just like a computer with all the things that can come up it through the reasoning. But it's not a bit of good without that life essence. And what are you the good? Are you the conceptual image or are you the life? What did Christ tell you when he says, I am the life, I am the truth, I am the being, I am that? Wasn't talking about himself, talking about that sense of presence, the knowing that you are, that what I call, for want of a better term, the intelligence in you. That's the life, that's the truth, that's the intelligence, the way. I am that. I am that takes another meaning onto it then, doesn't it? Instead of just mouthing the words, I am that. I am that totality. Not a singularity, not a person. And that's another thing they brought out in Buddhism. A lot of these scriptures are pointing to it directly. A lot of them get seemingly obscured by the different takes they put on it. That singularity. The Buddhists will tell you, let it rest in that singularity. Let it rest in its uncontrived singularity. And what do they mean by that? When you're not contriving or putting any thoughts, concepts, ideas and images onto it, it just is that pure singularity. Relax into it. It doesn't mean to say that thoughts won't come up. But those thoughts that are coming from the thought, they won't be contrived by any belief that I've got to do this or I've got to say this or thing. There'll be spontaneous, natural sports that can be utilised. So thought's not the enemy. It can be utilised. But when we believe it's running the show as I, me or me, it's the cause of all our psychological suffering. Now, that's all I got to say for the moment. I might say something else. And good. You're probably sick of it, but put it into your own investigation. And if you've got anything to say, any questions, any arguments, or any doubts, or tell us what you've understood about it yourself. And that's the way it gets spread. And then some of the questions you might put, if you put any, somebody might be able to answer them and put a bit more light on it. If you don't like the way I'm speaking about it, well, you're free to go and hear somebody else if you want to. Nobody's going to stop you. But you've probably had years of searching and never found the answer. Look at that. Why haven't you found it? You've been looking in your mind all this time for it. You've done this meditation, you've repeated this mantra, you've done this satsanga, you've read all these books. Why haven't you found it? Might that just dawn on you? Maybe I've been looking in the wrong direction. What direction have I been looking at? And you'll realise that every direction you looked at, or ever likely to look at it, if you take a look at it, is in the mind. And the answer is not in the mind. The answer that you'll find in the mind will go on forever and ever. Why, how, what if, more, what is. Always going on, creating more and more. And you look at that and you question that, well, what way is there out of the mind? And then it might dawn on you also, there's only one way out of the mind. Full stop. Just don't go there. Try that. What is wrong with right now if you don't think about it? Without a thought, what can you say? Can you say it's good without a thought? Can you say it's pleasant without a thought, or painful, or unhappy, or depressed without a thought? If you look through it long enough, you can't pause a thought for very long because thoughts just one. Look through it long enough to see what is beyond the thought. It'll dawn on you. And that's where the answer is, prior to the mind. And that's where you'll find the peace. You will never ever get peace of mind, no matter how long you try and how hard you try. Because mind is vibrating constantly. And the ancients will tell you that. They'll say the peace is when the mind is not. And they tell you that because it's the peace that passes through all understanding. Any understanding that takes place would have to take place in the mind. But the peace is when the mind is not. If you're looking for peace of mind, just go to that point and say it. So away you go, get into it.
I'm just going to add something, because nobody's sick of what you say, but there are some people sick of what everybody else says. So for these people in particular, not necessarily you, but I got some comments on YouTube. There is a possibility to book Skype session with Bob, or one-on-one session with Bob, when there is nobody else in the room, just you and Bob, or the camera in Bob. And that's a very effective way to actually receive the pointing. And there is no need to offend anyone else in the room, because that's the format that Bob invented, so everybody can speak. So I'll put it on YouTube also with the website, because all the information is on www.silentbobadamson.com. That's it. Nobody's sick of you, they actually worship you.
Well, they're making a mistake there too. The answer is not there.
Nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Shakespeare.
Yeah. And he says, this above all to thine own self be true, not to anybody else. And then it must follow as night follows the day. They cannot be then false to anyone.
Beautiful.
And many other things he says which are right on the spot there.
I have a question. This idea of manifesting or co-creating, like with the life essence as well as you, but having been a bit involved too with some intention and stuff like that. So is that all bullshit, or is that? Oh, it gets in my head. No, I know there's this intelligence, life essence intelligence, but can I not have some? I know there's no me, but you know what I mean, like some intuitive thought about, intending something.
Everything is quite valid in the appearance. Now, if you can manifest these things in the appearance, what would it be in the mind? Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's still the same thing. You can't take it out of the mind. And the mind is invalid also.
Right.
So it can appear to be so and seem to be so,
Yeah.
but it's no more real than any of this is.
Yeah, okay, alright. It's still the illusion, sort of.
Yeah. So there can be clairvoyance, clairaudience, all these things, all the things, and they seem very real, but they're all mind stuff.
But the experiential is,
Yeah.
it would be a different experience.
Yeah, but it'd still be an experience. It wouldn't be experiencing. Whose experience would it be? Mine.
Yeah.
Who would be the experiencer? Me.
And who would be the co-creator? Me.
And who wants what is not? Who is the one who believes that life as it is, the reality as it is no good and I have to change
Yeah,
it?
I think that's a good point. It's a very arrogant sort of...
It is, yeah. I will make it better because God was wrong.
That would be a point.
Playing God, I think, is another good term.
How about prayer? Where does prayer fit in there? Could you comment on prayer?
Well, my take on prayer is you're begging for something. You're asking for something. Grant me this, or do this for me. Give me this. Can the totality need that?
That's right.
But I also had another good answer on prayer, because prayer is also not just begging, but sometimes it's a thank you prayer or something. This is a dualistic answer, but it may be helpful. Like God or absolute or totality knows well what you want, knows well what you're grateful for, but you may not. So basically, if you put it in words, if you focus on your inner world and your desires and needs as the individual, through prayer you learn about yourself rather than communicate with something outside, because there is nothing outside.
And then again in prayer too, if you're not asking for something, if you're grateful about it and all the rest, something might come up.
It helps with that connection though, doesn't it? The prayer.
It keeps your mind one-pointed, doesn't it?
So,
It keeps your mind one-pointed to a certain extent, just like a mantra. Will keep your mind one-pointed from going on into the chatter of everything. It might be useful for a while. Oh, I can't say it was, I can't say it didn't, I did a lot of it.
still using the mind for... Yeah, okay.
Also, if the recognition is not available at the moment, so we are looking for the connection. So connection, obviously, there is me and there is something else that I want to connect with.
Yeah.
So it is still actually more pleasurable, I would say, state to long for connection or to love that absolute or whatever my image is, than to just be miserable human, separate and left alone. But it's not the ultimate truth.
Yeah.
It's a story.
It's a story. It's kind of, it's a devotional story. It's a sweet devotional story, but it's still the story.
That's right.
Temporary. It is to be recognized as another
It's
story.
good though, it's a step in the... I think it's still...
Yeah.
We can't be
It's
harsh about it. Like if someone's...
It's beautiful.
It's a positive step.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
If you move to do it, you'll do it. And it'll move you on when necessary, if necessary.
Mm.
This is the same with manifesting or prayer or anything of the mind. Is that ultimately, if there is a desire to try to manifest something, means there is a desire to do something. And may it be through the belief that we manifest it, doesn't matter. The fact is, the desire was there and it's just getting manifested anyway. Through the idea of, I read the book of Joe Dispenza, How to Manifest Things, or through the thing that I get a prayer and to my prayer it gets realized. The truth is beyond how it will come. The first there was an impulse there was something inside that going out for something, and regardless of the form and the belief from where it's coming from, because there was this impulse from inside, it's happening anyway. This impulse was already the first symptom of an happening.
Yeah, that's well said.
Bob used to say you're either attracted or repelled, and
And
that,
then you have a story about it.
yeah, that you know, and I love that thing from the old Christian catechism that I learnt when I was very little. There is only God. If you're going to have a label, there's not you and God. There's only God.
Yeah.
Everything's God. You know. So if everything's God, how can there be a you and God? So how can you pray to God when everything's God?
One of the definitions Nisargadatta put on desire, he says desire is the fixation of the mind on an idea. Get it out of its groove by denying it attention.
And another idea of God you often mention is omnipresence, omnipotence, omniscience.
What?
Omnipresence.
Yeah, omnipotence, omniscience.
Yeah. So where is the space for the two? Where is the me asking? You know, it's like it's a play. It's by God's power, by the power of the same life, I believe to be individual, by the same omnipotence, the power, I'm asking to get something, or I'm longing for connecting, for joining God. The same power is God playing to be the other, hide and seek, is pretending to be something else than itself, for the play, for the joy.
Yeah, take that word omnipotence. It's not thought power or mind power, higher power, lower power. It's total power. And that's what we're talking about all the time, the totality. Omnipotence, omniscience, total intelligence. Omnipresence, total presence. Is there anything other than presence in this room, outside? And as far as you go, or wherever you go, won't it be presence? Always and ever so. Unless you're relating to something, I was back there then and not there now, you'll still be present wherever you
go. And back to desires, even desire to manifest something comes from the same power, from the same omnipotence. The God is playing the other and having a desire. So even that recognized as just another way of God expressing itself, manifesting itself. As I'm incomplete, I want to be complete. I'm unworthy, I want to be worthy. I want a better life or more pleasure. That's also the omnipotence expressing through the seeming individual or tool or whatever. And including the tools of getting, like believing in the way of the law of attraction and following it strictly and believing it so faithfully that actually making it exist, making it experienceable in one's life. Because whatever we put the mind, the omnipotence expressing as the human mind is totally limitless because it is the omnipotence. So when you put that one mind on one idea, be it building financial whatever, freedom, or be it getting ecstatic states or whatever, it is going to, if a single point and that omnipotent power goes through it, it's going to happen. You can manifest the laws, you can learn to fly, whatever, the whole special powers that Nisargadatta was also talking to Bob and others. Yes, this is all possible. It is all valid in the appearance. If the whole mind and heart, all the power is put into it, it's possible. But for who and what for? If this is a spontaneous way the consciousness wants to express itself, great. But if there is a me who wants to be superior, well, that is going to hurt. That is going to backfire because
or a me that wants to get something.
Exactly. The other side of the coin is, oh, I'm not having it. I'm not good enough yet. I only will be worthy when this or that happens.
Yeah, what's wrong with right now? But don't think about it.
Exactly.
It says it all, doesn't it?
It says it all.
And wherever you think you are at right now, whatever you're doing, continue to do it. Just, it's only yourself, and get yourself through it. It'll take you beyond it if necessary, or whatever. So no matter what I tell you or say to you, don't take much notice of it. If it resonates, it'll be utilised. If it doesn't, psst.
And a good thing to go about the desires is to just not take credit for them. It's just give credit where credit is due, Bob often says. That life essence. If not for the life essence, there would be no seeing, there would be no thinking, there would be no desires. So when desire comes about, that's not my desire, why take credit for it? That's the manifestation, that's the movement of energy manifesting as desire. So if the credit is relinquished or given away to that life essence, okay, life essence is having a desire, it's manifesting a desire, or is being angry, or is being whatever. Now suddenly there is no need for agency, there is no need for individual, and there is no resistance. If that is not my desire, that's fine, I mean, let it be. Leave it as it is. Okay, it's bubbling here. Okay, there is a movement, there is a grasping here. So what? Let it be. It's interesting. It's actually juicy. It's okay.
Juicy Lucy.
Yeah.
So it comes down to there is no doer.
No,
it's
there
just
is
life
no.
essencing or being.
That's it.
And the rest of it's a story that appears upon it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's, you know, it's those dear old pairs of opposites, me, you, pleasure, pain, desire, fear, you know, it's just doing its little clunky thing.
Isn't that the simplicity? There is no doer.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah.
Simple, there's no doer. It's happening.
Do you catch yourself when you speak, Adrian? Before when you were saying there's an intelligence and yet there's a sort of a co-intelligence and then you said, yeah, I get there's no me, however,
But
do you hear that? Do you?
No, well, I've done spiritual, like, you know, you hear a lot about the co-creating, manifesting, and part of me sometimes buys it, and other parts like, no, it's just God, like, just leave it all up to the life essence. But it just felt like I've got this mind. There is, like, I know I'm not the mind, but the mind's there. Why can't it be utilised for more powerful purposes? In a way, if I'm going to use the thoughts, why not use them for?
There it is, right there. Did you hear that?
What?
Did you hear that?
no, I didn't.
I hate this. What?
If I'm going to use the thoughts, see, there's a solid assumption that there's a me there,
And there's a choice maker.
and yet what you're doing at the moment, rather than having a really, really, really good look, you're brushing the me off aside by going, I know there's not a me, but and then what you're doing, and it's okay, it's totally okay, and then what you're doing is you're investigating, you know, whether or not this is for real or not. You are. There's me, and there's me and a co-creator. Yeah. And that's okay too. It's like totally okay. The real investigation is hearing yourself speak. It really is. Hearing yourself speak and catching yourself speak and then going to who or what is that? What am I referring to when I say I? Or yeah, I get that, or I understand that, or...
I know there's no me.
Do you know what I mean? Like, if there's just this... And that's also, you know, that's all okay as well. But at some point, you've got to start looking for yourself and stop hoping that someone's going to tell you something. And it's going to, oh, that's it. Because that's not it. All that can happen on this... All that can happen with this non-dual teaching is to point for you to look for yourself.
To see who you're not. To see who you're not.
You know, like when that question was happening there, what came up for me was, well, who wants to know? Are you actually looking there? You know. And again, this is a pointer. It's just bringing you back to trying to get you more aware of the language that you're using, you're still trying to grab this in the mind. You're still trying to grab this intellectually, and that's okay. That's totally okay too. Yeah. But at some point, you've got to literally start looking for yourself. Where is it? Rather than, intellectually I understand there's no me, but do you know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah.
I've
So
sort of been stuck in the middle.
Yeah.
Brushing the obvious, perhaps.
Yeah.
Or sort of
because it makes sense.
making it sound
Yeah, I get there's no me.
but
That
I'm
makes
not-
sense.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But do you know? Do you know there's no me? So there's that. All I would say is just pause. Listen to yourself throughout the course of the day when you're communicating, or even listening to your own dialogue that goes on in your head. I don't really feel like driving over to this person's place, but fuck, I said I would. You know what I mean?
You're talking about coming to my place last week.
Not at all.
Who was that talking?
I'm only
Just
kidding.
but whatever there's inner dialogue going on that's always in reference to me. Always.
Thanks.
Yeah. Just.
You're not the only one.
Yeah. It's okay. Like all the questions are great. You've got to kind of exhaust them out and check them out. That's totally cool. But just for some reason, this is coming out.
But what I was going to say too, is when there's not a lot of energy taken up with all that stuff, which will just happen naturally. You can't do it with the mind, but when there's not a lot of questions coming up anymore, it's amazing what happens spontaneously. Terry said it before, watching what happens every day when you've investigated to the point of knowing there's no doer, watching what happens and the energy that's freed up for this little action figure, if you like, and seeing what happens. And so if you had to call that something, you'll start to see things happening in your life that you couldn't believe in the past. You'll think, wow, but there's nobody doing it.
Does that inner dialogue go as well?
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Sometimes there's dialogue going on, but it's like the clouds in the sky. It's like the trains in the railway station. You're the railway station, the trains come and go. The clouds, the sky's always there, the clouds come and go.
Don't you ignore the inner dialogue?
There's no doer, so at times, apparently, choices are made, but there's no choice maker. So what I'm saying is, when you know there's no choice maker, and you really know it, you've looked for it, you've never found it, for years and years you had the but questions, and which is, I'm speaking from what happened here, and then the questions stop arising. So that energy that's freed up, is just incredible, because the thoughts come and go, there's apparent operating going on, but the energy is freed up. So what's happening is lots of things get manifested that never got manifested before, because you were blocked into this little tiny, as Bob says, when you put water in a bucket, it's stagnant. So basically it's just the old water going round and round. Well, that's what happens with identification with the me. It's the old thoughts going round to a point, a me, back to the me, back to the me, back to the me, whereas the analogy of the water in the bucket, the river flows, and when you see that the me is erroneous, it's amazing the energy that's freed up here.
And the other thing I just want to add to that, if we want evidence of that intelligence energy that Bob talks about, Some people refer to it as God, whatever. If we want evidence of that, just watch throughout the course of the day all the doing that happens that has nothing to do with you. We're so unaware. Literally, like they call this the waking dream. We're walking around literally dreaming. We're so involved with self and me, like so involved. You know, just pause, or not even pause, but watch what your body does throughout the course of the day. It's got nothing to do with you. Zip. But we're unaware of it. We're completely unaware of it. So there's lots of doing that's happening without me, the doer. So you can start to observe that. That's what I mean by, like, you need to start paying attention. You really, the key is to literally start paying attention and looking at some of the stuff that gets said. You know, is there a doer? You know, like, you know, I'll bet anything that right now Adrian is not even conscious that he's got his hand on his face like this, that he's actually doing it. I'll bet. But there it is, it's happening, you know. We blink. We're not choosing to do that, you know. Adrian's right foot's swinging around like that at the moment. I bet you're not even thinking to do that. There's all sorts of stuff that happens that we miss.
Be in the as-is world instead of the as-if world. The as-if world is in the mind. The as-is world is what is right this moment. Bang, bang, bang.
Bob sometimes yell "shut up" at people. They'd be asking you things, Bob. They'd be telling you their sad story. Yeah. They'd be sitting here going, "What about da da da? What about da da da?" And you go, "Shut!"
I don't remember that.
And it'd force them to stop. Yeah. And Nisargadatta talked about the earnestness of the investigation. You know, it's like that's just what it comes back to. It's not about what Adrian's doing or anyone else is doing. It's like have a look yourself. Have a look yourself. Have a look back. You know, have a look. Who's saying this? Where are you seeing from? You're not your body. You're not your mind. You're not your collective past experience. Who am I?
You're not the image you have about yourself.
Nothing. Nothing. And I like when you said a grain of sand, because you used to say we're all a grain of sand, but every grain is gold.
Yeah.
Michael, when you said about the inner dialogue before, don't separate yourself from it. What's going on? If you're not separating from it, where can it lodge?
Where can it what, sorry?
Where can it lodge?
But you're not separating yourself.
No.
So you're just allowing it.
Let it be.
You're not doing it anyway. You're not the doer of it anyway. Well, you're not the doer of it.
Yeah.
Comes and goes.
Just one part of the mind looking at another part of the mind. But what's it looking from?
Madness.
You're in good company here, Doc.
I love that.
Julia is saying the thought keeps coming back to the me. So if it would make sense that if the me were to drop, the thoughts would drop along with it. Any comments?
Yeah, the personalised thoughts will certainly drop with it.
That's correct.
But the action figure thoughts will just continue.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The me thought is definitely gone.
Yeah. So self-obsession goes, and action thoughts. The commentary, whether the commentary is there or not, it doesn't really matter. It's the selfishness. But I wanted to add also something about the because I think I heard that question, if not from you, from somebody else. Wouldn't that be logical? If the mind is such a fantastic tool, to use it better and to invest in using the mind better. Well, if we want to go to logic, yeah, sure. But now we have that infinite intelligence or that absolute. Through some minds, it will be attracted to sharpen the tool of thinking. Through other minds, sharpen a tool of imagining and maybe manifesting. Through yet another pattern, get the body in form. Through yet another pattern, learn to paint arts or do music or rescue animals. So it's actually dangerous to fall for that thought, oh yeah, but wouldn't that be logical? So everybody should do it. Who is not doing it is an idiot. So now, if this is logical, this is what I should do, and this is what everyone should do. No, the truth is the consciousness manifesting as a separate, seemingly separate located pattern is different in every single instance, like every snowflake or every blade of grass. And that beauty of differences says that one will be attracted to sharpening the tool of the mind without taking credit for it. Just suddenly there is no doer, and the attraction takes me there to study neuroscience or whatever, or to study law of attraction. No doership. Consciousness is expressing itself through this path. Through another one, rescuing wildlife or doing yet another things. It's not a good or bad. It's not that this is the correct thing or this is a logical thing to do. And this is not. It may be that through your system there is attraction towards this. Through Bob's system is attraction to whatever, watching boxing matches or whatever, or documentaries about nature, whatever. And it's not one is better than the other. Through some consciousness there will be a brilliant musician coming out. Through some other point in consciousness there will be a Hitler or distraction tool or something that creates enormous suffering, which in further turn make people wake up. Who knows? It's just a play.
I think the point of using the mind as a tool can be confusing or misleading, because in the noticing, really, it might just be a commentary that's happening. Like, I don't see anything to say otherwise. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It's some commentary, and then people may start to think that commentary about something practical is entirely different from any other kind of thoughts, and it's not. They're just word.
Very good point.
And although Eckhart does say something about coming out of something to do some operation, I have no idea what he's talking about. But I don't know. My limited experience is there's some words.
Yeah, that's true.
Activity.
That's a very, very good way of looking at it. Any commentary that comes and it uses logic or it uses anything, it's just a commentary. It is useful. It may be practical. It's like non-selfing thoughts, whatever way. But it doesn't have anything to do with finding out the truth. It's just completely different topic. It's a commentary that's completely irrelevant to the spiritual search.
And even useful is in that same category of misleading because it's just blah. It's just blah blah blah. So kind of useful has also got an agent notion in there. There's really just
blah blah blah.
I will get plane tickets and perform some. I have noticed before a visual image of this little thing going getting plane tickets, and then I think I will get plane tickets, and to me that's no different. Like I don't have this one, but some others might say, I think there is a database of identification which we go and refer to. You know, there's still just a load of words in a row. And there may just be a notion that pops up. But there's really no difference between the two, quite probably. And it's just it could all be a commentary and an activity, set of activities that are just reactions in this biological form.
Yeah.
And there's really nothing useful about any of it. It's just happening.
Yeah. It's good to actually focus attention on the activity, on the action thought, and just see the commentary for what it is, the commentary. Just,
as far as we know, we don't really know because we tend not to see anything more detailed in the interaction.
Yeah.
Most don't even see it that detailed.
I used to live my life like I was a tree. Like a tree. Yeah, a big tree. Yeah. And I was the tree. I was absolutely the tree. There's no ifs or buts about it, and I was aware of other trees around me and so on, but I was the tree. And what I did my whole life was I believed that being this big, huge tree that I was, and all the roots that went down into the ground, all my roots, I hung onto the soil. And I really, really hung on to the soil, especially if the wind blew. So there's a bit of resistance that would come up. I'd hang on even more. Yeah. That's just an analogy that I'm using in terms of my life. There's always a grasping or a hanging on to. As soon as I let go of the hanging on and just completely relaxed, it dawned on me I didn't need to be hanging on. Didn't actually need to be hanging on. Yeah, but it's the absence of this personalised tree, the personalised tree. In the absence of the personalised tree, the tree could just be a tree.
So don't hang on where you're rooted.
That's the root. That's the root cause. Yeah.
That's so funny.
But see, a tree doesn't have a me. Do you know what I mean? And it's part of nature. It's just part of nature.
So you see that it's the phantom that's hanging on.
Yes.
Yes. So you don't not hang on. You see that it's the phantom that's hanging on.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of, oh, I'll let go now, because it'd still be the phantom deciding to let go.
Yes.
So it's not that. That's right.
Yeah.
Just seeing the falseness.
Yeah.
You know, there's nature, and we're aware of nature. It's funny though, we kind of only really become aware of it when we're out bushwalking or something. Oh, isn't this wonderful being back in nature? You know, it's here, it's in this room. Nature is in this room. The problem is, as a separate, as a so-called separate individual self, we actually believe, the arrogance of it, but we literally actually believe, as human beings, we're separate from nature. I've got free will. I'm calling the shots. I can do this and I can do that. Really? Like, really? You know, if I had absolute free will, I wouldn't be sitting here. I wouldn't have had the life that I had if I had free will. No way. If I had free will. No way. So all of us, including the thoughts that just appear, is part of nature. It's just an energy. It's just a movement. The heart beating, it's part of nature. The fact that my lungs breathe in and out, it's part of nature, or a result of nature, or God, or whatever you want to call it. But because we believe we're separate, we assume we're separate from nature, or separate from that intelligence, energy, or God, and then we go looking for it again. Want to go get back to it. Whereas the reality is, it hasn't gone anywhere. It's just seeing through the illusion of the so-called self-entity that we believe is there. When that is seen, that drops, and then you're right back to here. So you can't get anything. It's never gone anywhere. Who you actually really are, your true nature, has never gone anywhere. It's here, and it's functioning all the time. The only problem is a me steps in and goes, oh, I don't like it like that, and then there's resistance, as opposed to just flowing with
Bob
life.
has something to add. Oh, sorry.
That's why they call it the natural state. As in nature.
That's it?
That's it.
And then
The natural
sneeze.
state.
You just sneeze.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Yes.
nature.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is.
You don't sneeze.
Correct. It's so arrogant. And I don't mean that in a critical sense, but just in an obvious sense. It's so arrogant to think we're separate. Oh my God, what? Try and, as Bob says, try and separate yourself from the space. Try and separate yourself from air. Try and separate yourself from food. Try and separate yourself from the ground. We're separate. I'm different because I'm a human being, and as such, I even need to take responsibility for nature. Got to make sure that the oceans are clean, and I'm putting like plastic in a bin. Give me a break. Again, that's just reinforcing the idea that we're separate. If I am naturally inclined to put plastic in a plastic bin, then that's what will happen. If I'm not inclined to do that, that's what will happen. Who cares? There's no doer here choosing to do whatever. It's just a trillion myriad of manifestations that are all happening at the one time now, all throughout the whole universe. I mean, the planet, our planet, but then there's the universe, for God's sake. Everything is just... What credit can I take for any of it? I can't even, if I get honest. You know, if I think I'm this, my next concern would be that I took my next breath. If I think I'm this, I'd make sure that my heart keeps beating. Arrogance. I just... Yeah, of course this is me. Really? What are you doing about it? You know, like, even when we feed the body, we think it's me feeding the body. Or when the body needs water, it's me that's given the body a glass of water. Try not doing it and see if it's you. Try not eating. Try not drinking. See how long you last. Eventually the body will go, not you. So it's just getting in the box seat and watching all this stuff happening. And a good place to start is right here. Right here. Just watch what it does. Watch it. And you can watch this too. Watch the thoughts that they just come and they go of themselves. We're not the thinker of the thoughts that happen. So we can't take responsibility for it.
You choose to think a thought, or does the thought appear upon you?
There's an energy that goes with the thoughts as well. I know it's all story.
Doesn't that energy doesn't like the motivation happen and then thought is a translation upon that comes a little bit later?
There's a movement, yeah. Yeah, there's the movement, and then thought steps in and takes credit for it, or has a judgment around it.
Naming
Or a description.
The mind names and claims.
Thought itself is a movement too.
Yeah.
What do you mean by movement?
Energy. It manifests, doesn't it? Thought comes up and it goes. It's a movement. It's an energy.
Bob will explain
I
it.
do. Just a throb or pulsation. They call in some of the scriptures a span. Can't say it begins anywhere and can't say it ends in. Just sort of a subtle seeming, somewhat of a movement, they say. The world appears and disappears.
And they're charged too, according to conditioning. Let's say the thought, if the thought appears to steal from someone, that thought is not going to lodge anywhere because the conditioning doesn't respond to it. So that thought is going to be not charged at all. But if the idea comes up about nice fruit ice cream, then that thought may be charged so badly that I can start salivating and perhaps I'll go and start making it. Because it depends on conditioning. Some other people will be charged by the political ideas. So the thought comes with the charge already. Like it is already kind of very potent. The action thought, that is irresistible. I just get up and do the action. Or there's some sort of a speculative churning thought that just kind of passes. Nah, I'm not going to go there. It's not that charged. So some thoughts we can resist because we are not resisting anything, but they are not charged enough to engage. They just kind of offer, like the trains that Jane says, the train that is kind of inviting you, but you don't really have to go for that train. But some, because of conditioning, will be totally irresistible. And then only the potential comes up to wake up and realize, oh my God, I've been, already the whole attention identified with that idea and went on that train. And then drop it right away, forget about it. This is past, is gone, is dead. This moment of awakening, I'm not in that train anymore. That's something worthy of acknowledging. Past dwelling, how long did oh my gosh, I was entangled for an hour or half an hour. Who cares? It's dead, it's past, it's gone. This moment, yeah, I'm here. That is important. The more of those moments when those are acknowledged, those show up more often. But we often beat ourselves up. Yeah, why so rarely? Why have I been gone in the thoughts for so long? This is another thought. This is another train that is taking us opposite way. This is selfing, yeah.
So there's a pattern of thoughts that seems that seems to create me, and it's literally only a pattern of thoughts. And then there's, and there's me. That pattern of thoughts is me. And then there's all the other thoughts that happen around us that this pattern of thought gets affected by.
Has a response to.
It's seriously just a pattern of thoughts and another pattern of thoughts. So you've got words that are in conflict with one another. There's no entity there. There's no me there. There's not an entity there. But there's a believed in entity there, which is that belief is still only words and a pattern of thoughts. There's no entity there. That's what needs to be seen. We assume there is. And why wouldn't we? We've been brought up to think there is one. And everyone else seems to be operating from one. Yeah? That's why this can be quite confronting. But you've got to literally look. What is this me? Literally. What is it? And, it's one thing to become aware of, okay, I can see thoughts just happen. I'm not actually doing it. It just happens. That's one thing, which is great to at least see that. Most people, the thoughts are so close that they're wearing it as a coat. They don't even know. They're just it. So you start to get a bit of distance from it. Great, you can see that happening. The problem is with that, it's part of it, but the problem is with that, then we believe it's me that's watching the thoughts. And that me that believes it's still there, that needs to be investigated. That needs to be looked at. First, come to see thoughts just happen. The story just happens. All the thinking and stuff just happens, just like my heartbeat just happens. Yeah? See that. And what we do is we take the awareness that is aware of the thinking that's going on. We're saying that is me. It's not. But there's awareness of the thoughts.
There's awareness that can see both.
There's awareness of the thoughts. The problem is that is aware of the thoughts, we're saying is me. But me is also nothing other than a pattern of thoughts. So there's awareness, which is what gets pointed to all the time. There's presence, there's awareness, there's here-ness, there's a clarity.
That's the close one that lodges in, that we've got to go to that next point step.
Yep. So it's all okay, do you know what I mean? It's all okay. But eventually, you've got to really look. So up until then, what you're doing is you're discovering what you're not. Really.
I loved what Krishnamurti said. He said, the mind is the me, the mind is the past. And then we project that image we have about ourselves, that me, into the future, or we reflect back on the past. And then we have a response to that. And it's all the mind. And the mind cannot, or the me in the mind cannot live right here, right now. Cannot live right here, right now. You have to have a thought to have a me. You have to use the memory in the past or project it into the future to have a me. When there's no description, what are you?
replacing our me for another me that thinks it's the witness. Or
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly right.
And
That's
even though that feels better than our original me,
Mm.
it's still a bit of a
You got
trap.
it.
Yes.
You've got it.
Still okay. Do you
You've
know what I
got
mean?
it. You've got it because
Mm.
you've seen it.
Yeah.
See? So that's a breakthrough right there.
Yeah. And who is looking at the front of witness?
We think it's me that's seeing.
It's just awareness.
Yeah.
Awaring.
Nothing to do with
Awaring.
me.
That's right. I like that. Awaring. I like that.
Nothing to do with me.
Mm. Mm.
The mistake that we make is we believe that it's me first, then awareness second. After all, it's my awareness. Yeah. Or it's my thinking, or it's my seeing, or it's my hearing. So we're under the false assumption that me comes first, and then claims ownership of awareness.
Naming and claiming. Naming and claiming.
I was just going to say, I can't remember who said it, but I found it interesting when thinking about like how when we're thinking, we're either thinking in the past or the future, but actually when we're thinking about the future, we're remembering the past and thrusting it forward into a future that's going to play out as we can't imagine.
Yes.
The Nisargadatta said, you know, the unexpected always happens.
I
and
love
the
that.
expected
I
really
love that.
does. So we've got like 2 levels of crazy. That's how I think about it when I think about the future.
It is.
And I go, no wonder I feel slightly anxious
totally
here because
is.
there's 2 levels of
Because you're
crazy.
anticipating and imagining the
Yeah,
future,
but you,
dragging
like I
that
kind of
memory
remember
of
in
yourself.
Chinese
Yeah.
whispers too,
Yeah.
because I have, like I remember the world relative to me, the entity,
Yep.
and then I thrust it forward into something that's going to play out in
That's
an
right.
unexpected way.
That's right.
So the future is not really, none of a business really.
Well said.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Bob.